I'm Ashin Singh. It's Tuesday, August 18th. You've got questions and we've got answers. This is Search, where we're breaking down what you're asking right now in real time. Let's get right to it. We've got Maya Ephraim here. She oversees our online search trends. What's going on, Maya? What are people searching for today?
Hi, Ashan. The latest in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance case spiked with hundreds of thousands of searches. People are looking for the latest on the human remains found near her home and what the Pima County Sheriff's Department has to say about it. They're also looking for an updated timeline of her disappearance and asking why Savannah Guthrie's mother may have been targeted. Turning to the Lindsay Clancy trial, interest spiked following dramatic courtroom testimony from Clancy's mother and sister, as well as a co-worker who testified about Clancy's intense reaction to the famous Andrea Yates case. People are also diving into evidence presented by prosecutors, specifically Clancy's heart rate and Apple Watch logs. And in political news, the Florida primary election is driving lots of interest both locally and nationwide. Voters and political observers are flooding search for candidate breakdowns and for side-by-side policy comparisons in key races. But they're also checking for high-profile endorsements from both President Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
We've got a busy day ahead. Maya, thank you so much. We'll check back with you in just a bit. Okay, let's dive a little deeper into the story that you guys can't stop asking about. The remains found in Arizona near the home of Nancy Guthrie. Our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, has been on the story from the start. Aaron, appreciate you being here, man. Break this down for me. What do we know about these human remains that were found by authorities, and how are they so sure that they were not Nancy Guthrie's?
Well, they're going to test them to make sure, but they were found in a location that may be near to where Nancy Guthrie lived, Ashan. But the initial inspection of them indicated that they had been there longer than Nancy Guthrie has been missing. So the early suspicion is these remains that were found have nothing to do with the missing mother of Today host Savannah Guthrie.
Yeah, Aaron, just give us a refresher on this case, because it seems like it's actually been a while. When did Nancy Guthrie actually go missing, and how long has this investigation been playing out?
Oh, this has been playing out now for more than half the year. Nancy Guthrie went missing February 1st after she failed to show up at a neighbor's place to watch a Sunday church service. And initially, the suspicion was she may have been like just any other elderly person who may have walked away or gotten confused. But within a couple of days, it became clear to the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI, which was brought in, that Nancy Guthrie had been abducted from her home, and there are no suspects. There is an image from her doorbell camera of a masked man with a gun and seeming to try and tamper with her camera. He's the suspect that everyone is looking for, but so far, there are no signs of him.
And we're seeing a ton of search interest into the medications that Nancy Guthrie was taking. What do we know about those, and how do they factor into this case?
She needed the medication to survive. She took it daily, heart-related medication, and that's why the initial suspicion was that she was no longer alive. And in part, that comes from two different notes that the Pima County Sheriff's Department has now released that were sent to local media and on then to the family. One of the notes demanded a crypto ransom, but the second note said that the kidnappers did not realize how severely sick Nancy Guthrie was, or that she needed this kind of medication for her survival, and that she had died shortly after she had been taken, was buried in nature, and the kidnappers said in the note they were sorry.
Aaron, I appreciate you staying on top of this for us, man. Really appreciate those updates. Thank you. All right, let's get to the latest in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. Our Peter Haralambous is on the beat for us. Peter, appreciate you being here, man. The court heard from Susan Clancy, Lindsay Clancy's mother-in-law, today. What did she actually say in her testimony? What did we learn?
That's right, Ashin. This is testimony that began the day. Lindsay Clancy's former mother-in-law saying that she was desperate for help. She basically begged her family members to help her get help. And this mother-in-law, the former mother-in-law, who's actually a nurse, helped connect Clancy with the medical professional who briefly did treat her. On top of that, she spoke with Clancy about the medication she was taking at the time and helped her figure out what symptoms she might have been suffering from that were linked to those medications. Defense lawyers have really made those medications the center of their case, highlighting the fact that Clancy tried more than a dozen different psychiatric medications before she killed her 3 children. This is also a big way for defense lawyers to push back on the prosecution's allegation that Clancy wasn't taking her treatment seriously. They've alleged that she was jumping from provider to provider, medication to medication, that she was looking for a quick fix. Whereas this testimony really showed how much time, energy she put into this to make sure she could get treatment, to figure out a way to fix these symptoms she was suffering postpartum.
So, Peter, that was Lindsay's mother-in-law. We're seeing a ton of search queries about Lindsay's actual biological mother and sister. What do we know about their testimonies?
Yeah, they were the second and third witnesses to testify during this defense case, and they spoke about two really important things. One, kind of the spiral that Lindsay Clancy was suffering after October 2022, describing how she visibly became challenged basically to go through life, how she lost energy, motivation, that she basically lost the ability to feel emotions in those days and weeks ahead of the incident on January 24th, 2023. They also described how the medications she was taking had an impact on her. Her mother basically saying that Clancy believed the medication she was taking was largely responsible for all these symptoms that she was feeling, that she always felt numb. Her sister made a similar testimony about how this medication really had a negative effect on her and really appeared to contribute to her overall poor state of being.
Yeah, Peter, Maya actually flagged a really interesting breakout search. I hadn't heard this name in almost decades. Andrea Yates. That's what we're seeing searched a ton online today. Remind us of what that case was and how does she actually tie into this?
Yeah, so Andrea Yates, if anything, is like the Lindsay Clancy of the early 2000s. She was a Texas mother of 5 who drowned her 5 children in a bathtub. That case similarly igniting a national discussion about postpartum health. And she actually came up during the testimony yesterday, during the first witness of the day, a former coworker of Clancy. She basically described how she was working with Clancy in the hospital. They're both hospital nurses, and how a pregnant woman came in reporting fears about self-harm. And she basically said that Clancy couldn't really fathom the idea of self-harm when one was pregnant. The coworker then informed Clancy about the Yates case, which prompted Clancy to begin crying. She said that Clancy could not comprehend how a mother would want to harm her children.
Just fascinating stuff, especially just kind of seeing how these two cases are being dealt with 2 decades apart. Peter, appreciate you joining us. And time to tee up some high-stake primaries in Florida today. I've got our Washington Bureau Chief, Rick Klein, joining us. Rick, appreciate you being here, man. This is one of the biggest searches today. People want to know, who are the gubernatorial candidates in Florida? Do we know yet?
It's a long, long list of candidates running, but the front runners really comes down to 2 men in the Republican primary, Byron Donalds, who's a congressman from the southwest part of the state, Naples area, and Jay Collins, who's Ron DeSantis' lieutenant governor, a Green Beret who lost a leg to combat injuries and actually was able to come back and serve again in active duty. Donalds is the front runner in that race so far. On the Democratic side, it's an interesting one. The top Democrat is David Jolly, who is a former Republican congressman from Florida, who then later became an independent and ultimately became a Democrat. We've seen all these states where there's been all this progressive energy and talk of Democratic socialists, not so statewide in Florida, where the Democratic Party has been at a low point for a while. Whoever wins the Republican primary today, and Donalds is favored, is going to be the heavy favorite to win the governorship after DeSantis leaves after his term limit, his second term, which is the term limit, expires this year.
Yeah, Rick, you said it yourself, so I want to stick to the GOP side of the ticket here because we're seeing a lot of search interest. How does Jay Collins' experience and policies actually match up against Byron Donalds?
Yeah, well, if you're looking for policies, you're going to need a better search engine than Google to figure out differences, because these 2 men don't have a lot of policy differences. They do have differences in personality, in backstory. Byron Donalds and the fact that he admitted to having dealt weed earlier in his life. That's come up as a campaign issue. Collins, of course, has talked about his military record and talked about how he's got deeper roots in Florida. And Donalds has also gotten a lot more money, a lot more campaign cash, which has been something that Collins has talked about, try to cast himself as an underdog here. But the really defining difference is Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis. Trump has endorsed Byron Donalds. DeSantis has endorsed his lieutenant governor. And a lot of this is being seen as a test of who has the most sway, in DeSantis or Trump.
Yeah, and Rick, just before I let you go, a lot of search interest also in just how the redistricting of Florida could impact the balance of power in the state, especially as we head into the election.
Yeah, DeSantis pushed through a controversial plan to blow up the congressional map, to hand several more seats essentially to Republicans, to minimize African-American representation. It's created a scramble where you've got some incumbent Democrats running against other incumbents. Almost certainly there's going to be even fewer Democrats serving in Congress from Florida at the end of this cycle. That's by design, although those kind of redistricting battles often have unintended consequences, and you never know until the voters weigh in. Democrats, as you know, are looking forward to a better November than they've had in a while, and if that happens, then the consequences of redistricting may not matter so much.
Rick, the road is just beginning, man. The road to November. Appreciate you having us on the show. Appreciate you joining us on the show, Rick. Thanks so much.
Hey, my pleasure.
We just ran through your top searches, but what else is on your timeline? Let's get back to Maya. Maya, what else is trending today?
Ashan, Nike stock is dropping and just hit their lowest level since 2014, at one point dropping below $40. People are asking the same question: why is Nike stock down so much? And according to some financial analysts, it's a combination of weaker consumer demand and strong competition from other brands, and some investors feeling like the company's win now turnaround strategy is taking longer than expected. And the Big Bear Bald Eagle nest is officially turning into a reality TV drama of sorts. Internet bird watchers are buzzing after Shadow was spotted with a new eagle fans have nicknamed Katie. This comes just weeks after the loss of his longtime mate, Jackie. Social media is having a field day with this, I'm sure you can imagine. A feathered soap opera of sorts, sending people flooding to look up who Katie is and debate whether Shadow is moving on a little too quickly.
Maya, this rocked my world because I didn't know that we had lost our beloved until I'd heard the name of Katie. So I'm shocked, left a little speechless, but thank you so much for that update. Maya, appreciate you. Coming up, one search always leads to another. We've got a trending topic, but that's just the surface. Meta's latest trial is underway, and there's a lot at stake for the tech giant. We've got The Spiral. It's coming up next. Welcome back to Search. Today's top searches are only part of the story. A simple scroll can sometimes take you down a deep rabbit hole. It's time now for The Spiral. All right, and you guys have a lot of questions about social media addiction, and we're following your clicks and curiosity, and you guys want to know more about the Meta trial that's underway and what this all means for kids and their mental health. So let's break it down. We've got a fire lineup. We've got Brian Buckmeyer up first, then Dr. Alok Patel. Fellas, thank you so much for being here. Let's start with Brian Buckmeyer and the landmark case against Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. Brian is here to help us make sense of all of this. Brian, break this down for me, man, because opening statements began today. States attorneys are calling Meta's product design dangerous and addicting to youth. They say that Meta knew of the dangers, but Meta says that these claims are substantiated. How does one go about proving something like this?
I think the person who said it best is probably the Deputy Attorney General out of California, and they said that this case is about Meta and the fact that they hooked their users, that they held them as long as they could through infinite scrolling and other algorithms and designs within the product. Then they harvested those people's information and they hid the fact that they were doing it. And if they can prove that Meta was aware of these practices and did so to the detriment of these users, especially children, and the big issue here under the child protection laws for privacy, that they hid and stole that information, that's how they're going to prove this case.
Well, Brian, we all know that you're a defensive specialist, so put that defense attorney hat on. What's Meta's best argument here? How is the company actually going to go about defending itself?
Yeah, so gotta remember, there's a difference between whether or not social media harms individuals and whether or not Meta knew, was aware of it, and still did it anyways. And Meta is pushing back, saying they did not deliberately harm children nor mislead them when it came to their privacy rights or the dangers of social media. They're also going forward and saying, look at all the different things that we've put in place in order to protect young people within this platform. They're completely denying these claims, calling them unsubstantiated.
Yeah, Brian, the potential damages here are like an astronomical number. $1.4 trillion in damages are at stake here. Meta is calling the financial demand, quote, vastly disproportionate. What are the plaintiffs demanding in this lawsuit, and who would get paid if they actually win?
So part of the reason why they're saying it's so disproportionate is because currently Meta's market capitalization is $1.4 trillion, about the same amount that they're asking for in here. And I understand that we've seen this case, or a very similar case, both in New Mexico as well as California, and they were successful, those states, in suing Meta. So the idea of where this money goes comes up. Well, in practice, the state would get the money, but the idea is that the money would go to different programs or initiatives to help individuals who are harmed by these programs. So you'd expect that in New Mexico and California, and potentially in the 4 other states that are leading this charge, representing 29 other states, that if they're successful against Meta, we should see initiatives and programs for young people helping them with social media addictions.
Brian, before I let you go, help me get back to basics here. Why would Meta or any company be responsible for anyone becoming addicted to their products? Do we have laws that say anything about this?
So it's 2 things here. It's one about misleading your customers, saying that you're doing X or Y instead doing A, B, C. And here, what the plaintiffs are saying is that Meta knew how addicting this product was. In fact, they created it in a way to do so. Think back like decades before when you had litigation about the tobacco products and how they were purposely targeting young people and other individuals. Now, the tobacco products have changed their ways, but the argument is that social media is going by the same playbook. The other issue is about child privacy laws. Those are on the books, and part of the allegations here is that Meta is harvesting this information from these young people and using it in a way that is misleading and untrue to their platform ideals and values.
You went to law school, so you didn't have to. Brian, you're the man, dude. Appreciate you. Let's bring in pediatrician Dr. Alok Patel. Dr. Patel, thank you so much for being here, man. It is so good to see you. One of the breakout searches we're seeing right now is just how social media addiction is actually defined. What are the warning signs to look out for?
Well, Ashan, as we talk about this, I have a feeling that some parents, teens, or people who use social media every day might identify with some of these features. So when we talk about social media addiction, we're really referring to a broader category called problematic media use or problematic technology use. And this really comes down to people who just can't put down their phone. They're checking their social media apps, their notifications right when they wake up. You might experience anxiousness, irritability, or fear of missing out, or FOMO, as the cool kids say, if you are away from your phone. And one of the hallmark features that we worry about in medicine is that it disrupts people's normal life. They're disrupting their sleep, their schoolwork, interacting with other people. They're staying home rather than going outside. And their days really seem to be centered around checking that device. There are some studies that show us that teens are checking their phones around 100 to 200 times a day, looking at those little notifications. So if you start to see that social media use is disrupting your ability to work, live, eat, and function like a normal member of society, that might be problematic media use.
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Patel, talk to me about it on the ground level. What are you seeing in clinic? What are you seeing in your patients as it relates to the toll of social media on youth? And have you personally linked social media use to things like anxiety, depression, sleep, and attention issues, those things you just mentioned?
You know, I'm glad you asked, because physically, and a lot of physicians will agree with me on this one, is we see kids constantly scrolling on their devices. And then we've also seen these associations with many multiple mental health issues, such as anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, kids comparing themselves, having these unfair social norms to other children as well. We've even seen links to self-harm, suicidal behavior. And then there's physical issues such as kids having disrupted sleep. But again, and this is something to think about not only in the journalism world, but also in the legal world, these are all studies that have shown us associations, not necessarily causation. But Ashton, one of the biggest concerns is what social media is replacing for kids, especially at a time when their brains are developing and they're learning about themselves, the world, and interactions. It's replacing that time they're spent outside interacting with people, moving around, paying attention in school, at home, etc. And that's really what this boils down to, is what are we doing to our kids right now in a time? It feels like an uncontrolled experiment.
For sure. Dr. Patel, I need the final word from you. Lay down the law for the parents out here. What should the role of parents be doing in their households for these kids and social media addiction?
Well, keeping it simple, there are some benefits to social media. I got to be real about that. There's education, there's community, but there's also some serious harms as well. Parents need to be empowered and have those conversations with their kids, teach them how to be empowered, smart citizens, and set some ground rules about keeping phones away at the dinner table, at bed. And also, parents need to be engaged in conversations with school. But Austin, I want to really emphasize that 10, 15 years ago, a lot of this was placed on parents when we talked about screen guidance, but the conversation also needs to involve industries and tech, the federal government, schools. It has to be an all hands on deck approach.
It's not just a conversation for the dinner table. It's a conversation for us as a country. And that's why we're having it here on Search. Dr. Patel, I appreciate you, man.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Still ahead. It might be at the top of your feed, but what's the vibe? We've got your top pop culture and entertainment searches with Roxy Diaz, including who's leading the 2026 MTV VMA nominations. We've got the vibe check. It's coming up next. All right, it's time now for our vibe check, a look at what's buzzing in entertainment and pop culture. Our Roxy Diaz joins me now for more on what's trending on your feeds. Roxy, what's the vibe?
Oh, the VMAs is what's popping. The 2026 VMA race is officially a Legends showdown. Madonna leads all artists with 11 nominations, and if she sweeps, she'd hit 30 career wins, tying Taylor Swift and Beyonce for the most awarded musicians in VMA history. But watch the math. Taylor sits at second with 9 noms, and she only needs 1 to pass Beyonce and become the most awarded musician in VMA history. Now, the Artist of the Year category is stacked with Sabrina Carpenter, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift, Madonna, along with Bruno Mars and Morgan Wallen. Now, this year's Video of the Year category pits Taylor Swift's The Fate of Ophelia against Madonna's Confessions 2, the film. Fan voting is open through September 25th, so start voting now. Now, the rock world is mourning Darren "Derry" Bronson, the founding member of the British band EMF. He died at 55, a year after revealing he was living with a cancerous brain tumor. The band writing on Facebook, "We are devastated," adding, "The only solace we can find is that we are eternally grateful Derry was able to join us on stage a couple of times just a few short months back." EMF is known for that smash hit Unbelievable, which shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, a song that still fills stadiums and karaoke rooms 35 years later. And the court is back in session. Sarah J. Maas sent the book world into a frenzy, revealing the titles and covers for the next 2 ACOTAR installments in back-to-back Instagram posts. First up, A Court of Splintered Harmony, the Valkyrie Cycle Movement 1, arriving October 27th. Caption, "What was broken will be remained," followed by A Court of Forgotten Melody Movements 2 and 3 on January 12th, 2027. What was lost will be reclaimed. Maas teased the news on Call Her Daddy back in March, admitting the books took me a long time to write. The first new entry since the original 5 dropped between 2016 and 2021. And book talk is already in shambles. Pre-order season starts now. And Marvel just assigned the syllabus. Disney Plus releasing a list of 15 movies and shows to watch before Avengers Doomsday hits theaters December 18th, and fans are treating it like a treasure map. The lineup stands from X-Men and X2, fueling all the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen theories, through Loki, No Way Home, Deadpool, and Wolverine, and this year's Fantastic Four. First step to the speculation game is simple. If it's on the list, its characters probably matter. 15 titles, 4 months to binge. Consider it most fun homework of the year that Disney is giving us, and Disney is the parent company of Marvel Studios and ABC News. So, Ashton, you got homework to do.
Yeah, I seriously got my work cut out for me. That is a long list, but I feel like it's going to be well worth it. Roxy, thank you so much. All right, I'm Ashton Singh, and this is Search on ABC News Live, where your questions meet real answers. We'll leave you with what's trending right now on abcnews.com. You can scan that QR code right there to catch up, and I'm going to see you back here tomorrow. Be safe.